welcome Simone Elias, one of our kid programmers this month. So, Simone, somebody asked me to list 8 movies that I would think would be least likely for a kid to pick. Call Her Savage would have been on that list. What movie have you chosen for us?
I've chosen Call Her Savage.
What? It's on the list, Simone.
1932 with Clara Bow. Yeah,
It's a pre-code movie.
pre-code.
Yeah, and it
Yeah,
is maybe the most pre-Cody films
exactly. In the book, I talk about just how many pre-code elements are in this. It's intense.
in the book. How old are you?
I am 15.
And when you say the book, you mean Old Films, Young Eyes by Simone Elias, who is you. So I want you to set up for people what the story of Call Her Savage is with Claire Bow. And I think the best way to do it is to have you read from your book because it's really, again, really well written and well described. So go to page 121 of your book and give us a little sense of what this story is.
My favorite pre-code I've seen so far is Call Her Savage. If you want to watch this film, go watch it before you read this section. There will be spoilers. If you're reading on because you don't want to watch the movie, this is your last warning. I don't know why I felt that was necessary. Maybe because I want every single person in the world to watch Call Her Savage. The movie is about Nassa Springer, a vivacious and rambunctious young woman who lives on a ranch. She loves riding horses and spending time with her friend Moonglow, a native man. Her dad is not a fan of her bold behavior and ships her off to Chicago. Naturally, she is happy because she gets to leave him. But what follows is a lesson on the often cruel nature of capitalism, sexual harassment, motherhood, and the suffering of modern life in the 1930s.
That is a grown-up observation to make. Have you always felt older than your age?
Definitely. I
Yeah.
tell a lot of people inside I feel like a 90-year-old woman.
How did you develop this interest in, I mean, let's start with movies in general, and then classic movies in general, and then we'll zero down on pre-code.
Yeah, my friend, she was interested in classic Hollywood from the pandemic, and she wanted to start a podcast about classic movies from the teenage perspective. And I was an amateur podcaster at the time, so I jumped in and I started watching them. And I was just really inspired by sort of this whole new world of stories and experiences that I never would have seen before. So I dove really deep into it and ended up writing a book.
Was there any particular interest in movies or classic movies before this, or was this really?
Not really. I mean, as a kid, my favorite film was Mary Poppins. So I guess you could
Sure.
tell from that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wasn't a fan of movies because I had only really seen the kind of kid-type movies like The Secret Life of Pets or Moana and, you know, the cartoons. And I was not a big fan of movies until I saw Funny Face and Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, Singing in the Rain, and that kind of pulled me in. I was like, this is what movies are supposed to be like.
So how is a teenager's take on Hollywood's golden age different than a person of my age, for example?
I think a Gen Zer sees everything very differently from the past because of technology. We've grown up in a totally different environment from most people. And this sounds weird, but I wish it was a teenage girl's take on Hollywood's golden age because I wrote a lot about gender roles. That was an important part of this to me because when I first started watching classic movies, it was like, how am I going to deal with this idea of women as lesser than in these films? And what I found was that I actually got to watch the boundaries being broken, which was so meaningful in a way. Watching women fight for their rights from the 30s through the 60s in film, it was an incredible experience to watch that.
Well, that's really interesting because what you'll see here in 1932 in a pre-code film is a movie about a woman that is far more progressive than a movie that would have been released 2 years later, 4 years later. Before going forward, Hollywood went backward.
Yes, it's a sense of freedom that pre-code gave women. It's incredible watching that on screen in so many movies.
Because Claire Bow, that was the it girl, and you can make fun of that phrase, the idea that she had it, but man, you see it in Call Her Savage.
What I also love about Clara Bow in this film is, and it shows so much about the society, is that so many horrible things happen to her, and yet society has the audacity to call her crazy. So it shows that, like, no matter what a woman does, it's always going to fall back on her.
All right, Simone, let's watch the film. We'll talk more afterwards. Can you toss to the film for us? You got the details? You got everything?
Yeah.
All right, I thought you would.
Here's Clara Bow in Call Her Savage from 1932.
Back with Simone Elias, 15 years old. Old films, young eyes, a teenage take on Hollywood's golden age. Is this the only book you've written?
So far.
The golden age of Hollywood has a relevance not just for your passion for movies like Call Her Savage, but your family's history.
Yes, my great uncle was actually a playwright and screenwriter in classic Hollywood. He was blacklisted under McCarthyism. He wrote with Billy Wilder. He's been a big inspiration to me, and I only really took a deep dive on him when I started getting into classic film. He wrote Stormy Weather. He wrote Champagne Waltz with Billy Wilder. He wrote a movie called The Smartest Girl in Town, but he was also a playwright. He wrote Top Banana, which was the musical with Phil Silvers.
With Phil Silvers, that's
yes,
right, yeah.
Yes, and Cafe Crown, which is sort of like a Yiddish cafe comedy, so.
Before I let you go, I think anybody who wants to be a writer, who wants to write and wants to succeed at it, at some point has to reveal part of themselves. One of the movies that you care about, and the movies you wrote about, is The Snake Pit. And you were incredibly revealing about some pretty personal stuff. I imagine that was a somewhat difficult decision, or a decision you at least took seriously.
It was. When I saw The Snake Pit, which is from 1948, I believe, I saw an experience that was decades before my grandparents were even born, of a woman in a psychiatric hospital, which I also went through. I have OCD and I got treatment for it, and I wanted to be really clear about how important mental health representation is, especially in Hollywood. So I found it incredible that that was actually a movie from the 40s, you know?
Right, that's part of the barriers you see coming down. Like, yes, you can look at that movie now and see that it's off in some ways. There's some flaws in it. Obviously, we've come pretty far since 1948, but that was a bold breakthrough movie. We're going to try and remove some of the stigma around mental health. Like, you didn't give it to yourself, right? This is something that can be treated. And if it can be treated, it ought to be treated.
And I would argue that every account of mental health representation is flawed in some way because everybody experiences it differently. And we know so much now that we didn't then. I find it really interesting, all the horrible treatments they used to give, and a window into that world that actually isn't so different from what I experienced was amazing to see.
Yeah. You've come to the TCM festival, right?
I did. I went 3 times.
And you enjoyed it?
I love it.
Yeah. And what's the best part about it?
Best part is probably the community there. I met my best friend through classic Hollywood. She's a big Barbara Stanwyck fan. Shout out to Amelia. And we met through TCM Fest. I've had so many great times there.
I love TCM.
So what do you want to do? What's your, where are you going? What are you going to do?
I'm taking your job.
You may have. Well, either way, you got a bright future. And I feel like in some way that TCM is going to be part of your future. And we're proud to know you and really thrilled that you came here as part of it. I calling you you're a kid because you're 15, ergo you're a kid, but you don't really seem like a kid. The book is wonderful. You gave me a signed copy. I'm appreciative. Thanks very much. Old films, young eyes. What's the bottom half of it? A teenage take on Hollywood's golden age. Simone Elias, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben. Simone's
done for the night, but she's going to be back on TCM. And the movies, of course, continue here. And as always on TCM, they are uncut and commercial-free.
Next on TCM, A Christmas Past. Then Mon Oncle Antoine. And later, Period of Adjustment. TCM takes some getting used to tonight.